Good morning, Grant. Looks like it's just the two of us so far.
Good morning.
My turn. Good morning. Is Grant on?
Yeah, can you hear
Great.
me?
Great, thank you. So we're live and recording. I'm not sure how many folks we're going to have on today. This is kind of a last-minute announcement of our first Hangout for LivelyGig. So our goal is to engage the community of freelancers and their clients, as well as software developers who would like to participate in building this great vision of a distributed and decentralized freelance marketplace that will leverage Bitcoin and provide opportunities worldwide for online services. So with me today so far is Grant, who's our software developer, and we're hoping others will join us. So say hi, Grant.
Hi.
And so not sure what to expect. This may be a relatively short meeting, but would like to just orient those that may be watching live but not participating to our community hangout, to how to participate in the online chats and look for further announcements and a little bit more about our vision. So I'll go ahead and get started, and then we'll introduce other participants as they join. If anyone happens to be watching this live and would like to participate in the conversation today, we encourage you to do so in the group chat window. I've posted the link, as well as it's posted on our Slack board. So first of all, let me just orient everyone in case they're having trouble finding Slack or the Hangout link for the participants. Let me share my screen, and we'll go from there. So Grant, how are you this morning as we get ready for that?
I'm good. I'm tired.
It is early.
Yep, it's early for me.
The reason we're holding these early is to make sure we are at a convenient time for those in other parts of the world.
Yeah.
So let's see. So on so Grant, are you seeing my screen?
Yep, I see it.
So at the bottom of our homepage, which is livelygig.com, you'll see at the bottom a connection to Slack, as well as our join link. So if you join, then you'll automatically be invited to join the Slack board, and then this navigates to Slack. I also have the Slack application installed, and so that's what I like to use. And I'm a member of different teams. So in LivelyGig, there's a number of different channels, and community is the channel for discussion of what goes on these videos. And each week about this time, I'll be posting the live link, which we can't post until we actually start the broadcast and connection with YouTube, where these will be preserved. So that's where you'll see these every week, a couple of minutes before they join. Also on our webpage, I wanted to make sure everyone is aware of our link to our white paper, which describes the vision in pretty good detail. It's evolved a little bit since then, but not substantially. And we certainly can talk about any part of these during the upcoming broadcast today or in the future, and be happy to talk about anything in particular. LivelyGig is still pretty early as a company and as a project, so we have a lot of validation to do of our business model, of our customer base, what problems we think the freelancers are seeing, and more excitingly, what opportunities provided by a new freelance marketplace that is more directly peer-to-peer between the freelancer and their client, and leveraging Bitcoin for immediate payment. So we have a number of things to validate, and that's why we're so excited about these Hangouts as a mechanism to do that. Also on our Slack channel, we'll be providing updates to our technology and protocols. So for example, in the, I guess it's in the architecture channel, I've posted several things about our architecture and how we're building that, and we'll take a moment to go over that. Let me see, I've got a chat come in. Let me see, who's this? Stop sharing for a second. So if you hold on, I've got probably someone else is trying to join. Hold on.
Hello.
Hi, Greg.
Hi there. Sorry for the delay. I was in a different place. I'm curious as to what's going on with these links.
Hey, Greg. Good morning. Well, you found the link early.
Yeah. It'd be cool if we could sort out what's going on with why the links and the invites I get lead me to a different room.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm pretty new to how these Hangouts work. This is sort of my second live Hangout, so we could I can get some tips for you later, from you later. Great. So already I've described for those that are either lurking as listeners or that'll watch this on YouTube how to join up to the Slack channel, where the Slack channel is, link to the white paper, and sort of what these Hangouts are about. So, Greg, if you take a moment and introduce yourself and your excitement about LivelyGig and these Hangouts.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. That's very kind of you, and I'm glad to be joining. Yeah, I think this is a great way to reach out to the community, and I'm really excited about LivelyGig. I work with the scenario team as well, and I just really feel like the decentralized movement is necessary at this time. I think that there are a lot of social pressures that difficult and very challenging for a number of people, and I think that the decentralized movement has the tools to make it possible to have a practical response, a practical nonviolent or a practical peaceful response to the current social pressures that people are experiencing, social and economic pressures. I'm here in Montreal at the Bitcoin Scaling Conference, and it's great to see so many people who share the same vision and share the same understanding. There are a lot of interesting people from the Bitcoin community here, and people from the privacy and cryptography community here. Zuko, for example, was here at the conference, and there are a wide variety of people. Ethereum is represented as, and Blockstream, and a whole bunch of others. But what's common amongst all these people is this sort of practical and compassionate concern for the situation that people are experiencing. The decentralized technologies and approaches and community have a real shot at affecting positive and actual change. And I think LivelyGig fits into that, right? So it provides a mechanism for people to meet up and be able to offer and provide employment, and offer and provide skills, and that's essential if we're going to take care of each other and the planet. So that's part of my excitement. You know, and you know, in terms of roles, well, some of the roles that I occupy in with LivelyGig, in you know, have to do with technical stuff. So I've been working on a stack that hopefully will accelerate LivelyGig's development efforts, and also just providing just sort of general, providing the whole team general, or just sharing, you know, having been involved in a variety of startups, just sharing my experience with that. But I'm really excited about these Hangouts. I think they're great. I think it's a really excellent way to reach out to people and raise awareness about what's going on with LivelyGig.
Thank you so much, Greg. Yeah, and Greg is quite modest, but I will build him up a bit. Greg is really an expert in what's called mobile process calculi, in particular pi calculus, which is some of the discipline and technology behind our back-end stack for distributed and decentralized computing. Greg was one of the key architects of Microsoft BizTalk server, and so understands how to build systems at scale, and is quite successful product, obviously, and so I'm so delighted to have him as a co-founder. Wanted to introduce or provide an opportunity for Shadow, who joined us a minute or two ago. So welcome, Shadow. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is my name is Christian.
Yeah.
Yeah, how you doing? I go to all the scenario hangouts, so I saw the invite in the Slack channel this morning, so I figured I'd join in.
Christian,
Awesome.
we're delighted to have you.
Welcome.
Yeah, it's always good to stop in and hear the news. For some reason, you know, I was reading some things online last night. I know that WikiLeaks published a book, and it was available for shipping yesterday. So I bought the hard copy, and they gave me the free ebook. Dude, I'm telling you, man, I'm just like, what you guys are doing is really going to change everything. So yeah, the whole movement, you know, it's just good to come in and listen and participate weekly. I'm glad that you know, LivelyGig is also having it hang out every week. So I'm just glad to be here.
We're delighted you're here. Was there anything in particular in the WikiLeaks book that caught your attention and you know, relevant to LivelyGig? You know, opening up opportunities worldwide for private committed services and so forth.
Well, I just got the book last night, and so the book itself is just, they basically, the organization, they analyzed the 50,000 documents that you know, the hack took place, and WikiLeaks got a hold of 250,000 documents from you know, U.S. What do they call them? The State Department. You know what I'm saying? Like, you guys know what the, so they analyzed all those documents, and they broke it up into chapters, basically their conclusions. And so maybe Wednesday, if I get further through the book, I can tell you about it. But you know, well, I mean, what caught my eye, for example, is before even getting into the first chapter, they were saying that when the story broke, that WikiLeaks got a hold of these documents, the federal government sent emails out to like 71,000 people saying that you can be prosecuted for like posting any information with regards to WikiLeaks on Facebook or anything. It's like crazy. I'm like, what? I didn't know that. Like, so I mean, there's very clandestine things going on, obviously. So it's good to just have that. Have an organization like WikiLeaks bringing the enlightenment there. So
yeah, WikiLeaks is pretty divisive opinions around it, but certainly it made us all aware of the need for privacy and privacy protections, and certainly both LivelyGig and Scenario, the social network that Greg mentioned a moment ago, value privacy as a core principle. While it's difficult to assure, everything is private when you're communicating on the web, we're going to do all we can that when there is point-to-point communication between either platform, that's private. Obviously, in the case of LivelyGig, if you want your freelance profile to be known beyond sort of just a point-to-point, you're going to need to become a bit more public, either within a social circle or globally. But in terms of like identities of who you are and where you are, we're going to try to protect that as much as possible. We obviously have employment law to be concerned about and certain requirements. For example, the U.S. not working in with certain parts of the world that are sponsoring terrorists and so forth. However, we're going to be protecting of privacy and anonymity as much as we can. So another topic I wanted to just as far as first video and wanting to orient folks is going back to our Slack channel and also giving an opportunity for Greg and Grant to talk about our architecture. So let me go back to sharing, I guess. Let's see. So again, in our Slack channel, I mentioned a moment ago, I've posted 3 articles there that are about our architecture, our back-end web application server and front-end architecture, and so just wanted to let everyone know that's online and watching, as well as those that might watch the YouTube later, that these are here. So our back-end architecture. A lot of this is.
Hey, Ed, I think you're sharing the wrong screen.
Oh,
yeah. Every time zone.
Yeah, I definitely am. Thank you so much, Grant.
Yeah.
It's funny because I have every time zone on both screens. Okay, let me get back to that then. Okay, screenshot this one. Hey, how's that?
Yep, can see it.
Okay, so in our architecture channel on Slack, so we have we're looking now at the back-end architecture, and perhaps Greg, you might want to talk a little bit about this in whatever detail you'd like to.
Yes, but you're cutting in and out.
Okay.
So that's nice. I mean, the Slack channel. But do you have any of the diagrams up in the channel?
I could pull up some of these. Let's see. Some of these.
You don't have to.
I don't think I do. I don't think I do. But these links take you to several diagrams.
Oh, okay. All right. Awesome. Oh well. The back-end architecture utilizes a combination of special K and blockchain technologies. So special K is utilized for meetup. Sort of deliverables that might be associated with the so the special K, which, as Ed mentioned, is a decentralized and distributed implementation of the and then that is also connected with blockchain technology to settlement. And I guess, Ed, have you decided, is it going to be still debating or deliberating on, or is that decided?
So, Greg, I just heard part of your question about dibs. Could you repeat it, please?
Yeah, I was asking whether dibs are going to be an altcoin. So are you planning on having them be based on the blockchain, but essentially a fork of Bitcoin, or what's your thinking there?
Yeah, haven't decided whether it is going to be a tradable token or a sort of a one-way purchase of a software access token, and the difference may rely on sort of the monetization model as well as how we engage the open source community. One consideration is to create a foundation that would manage a nonprofit around the open source activities, and they would essentially be responsible for the dibs token, whether it be tradable or a one-way purchase. So we're looking at those models. We're looking pretty carefully at how Factom did this with Factom Inc. and Factom Foundation in their factoid token, as well as what Scenario and others are doing. So it's a question open, but certainly that's a great question to get feedback on. So if anyone has a comment on that, would love to hear it. Christian or others?
Well, I'm particularly interested. One of the things that I found was compelling about the Scenario proposal was that by having its own coin, it could easily that's how it was able to issue essentially debt, right, and sort of jumpstart the AMP economy. And that makes a huge difference. When I was considering, I mean, before Scenario and I joined forces, and I was thinking of just using Bitcoin as a part of the whole Splicious offering. The thing that I was struggling with was how to get Bitcoin into the system, and so it makes a ton of sense if you just go ahead and issue your own coin, because then you have this pool that people can play with.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so a similar thing can happen with dibs. If you allow people to create a market around dibs, that can jumpstart the LivelyGig economy. The other thing I want to point out in connection with this is that well, let me stop there, and I'll let other people talk, and maybe I'll make the other point afterwards.
Yeah, thank you, Greg. And I wanted to welcome Ian, who's since joined as well. So welcome.
Thanks. Hi.
Yeah, so we're in the middle of discussing. We were talking about the architecture of the back-end stack. I don't know when you joined, Ian. And then Greg had asked about the dibs token and the economy around dibs. So, Ian, would you like to take a moment and introduce yourself, and if you have any comments on dibs?
Sure. I'm Ian Bloom, and I'm very interested in the Scenario project, and which is the platform, of course, that you're using for LivelyGig. And I've got hopes for coming up with an application of my own to run on.
What's your thinking there?
Sorry, I don't have a camera today.
Whether it is going to be a tradable token or one-way purchase of a software access token. Okay, I muted Navneet. Go ahead, Ian.
Okay. So no camera today, and I I haven't read through all the white papers. I'm not that familiar with the LivelyGig, but I'm interested to follow along and learn.
Well, that's awesome. Yeah, we obviously we're excited about Scenario as well. LivelyGig, part of the model is to not just be sort of a bulletin board and an average what the freelancer marketplace that's out there today, where you go and look at the public listings, but also that you can rely on your network as for connections and as the basis of reputation within a community. And so that's a really important part of LivelyGig, is to leverage the scenario type of communities that will form, specifically professional communities. So any other comments from anyone on the DIBS token that Greg was talking about?
Well, one thing I wanted to point out is that those kinds of business decisions actually impact the technology and the architecture, and that's part of the reason why I brought it up. We began with this question of introducing the architecture, and I mentioned that it's kind of a wedding between the blockchain technology and a different content delivery network, and but part of that. And part of that is driven by the decision to do clearing and settlement, at least partially through Bitcoin, and the other part of that would be driven by whether or not the DIBS token is also a kind of altcoin, and I always find it useful and valuable to be able to trace all business requirements back down through the architecture to lines of code, and I think it should also go the other way, that more than 90% of your code is effectively justified by business requirements, and so that's something that I'm always keeping track of in my head, and we try to keep track of in other ways, like Ed I think has been drawing interaction diagrams as a way to get after the initial scenarios that LivelyGig is supporting, and that's another way for us to, on the one hand, make sure that we're covering all of the use cases with respect to employment and clearing and settlement services around that, so making sure people are satisfied. I want to be able to do this. Can the system do this? So we want to record all of those and make sure that we can map those onto the features and functions of the architecture. And the other side of that is making sure that the architecture supports all the flows, right? So every end-to-end kind of use of the system has a clear path. It's not like the bits get midway through a path and then fall off a cliff. So that's another piece of the puzzle for us, in both methodologically, but also it's interest. One of my long-time fascinations with software development is just how development and architecture correlates to business requirements.
Yeah, me too. And kind of the history of how Greg and I got to know each other was we found each other by after I had written the white paper, and in parallel for many years Greg had been working on the technology that became the scenario technology, which is also known as Special K, and I found the scenario white paper and other information about scenario, and Greg found LivelyGig and said this is a great match, and as we got to know each other, we think very much alike in the sense of building software in a way that maps as directly as possible onto the business requirements, and that is as much as possible correct by construction. And so I think especially the latter sets us apart in our approach to building this product. So, we are very architecture aware in everything that we're doing, and try to tie that architecture back to the behavior. Hey, I wanted to also take a moment and introduce Navneet. Navneet, you want to say a little bit about yourself? You're on mute at the moment.
Yeah, sure. Hello, everyone, whoever is online. I've just started working with Ed, Craig, and Grant. Recently joined the team, and very excited for the freelance marketplace.
That's awesome. And yeah, Navneet and Reza and I, Reza's our UX designer who's not on this call, but we met yesterday, for example, to go over our user interface mock-ups and our approach to user interface, and we talked about all sorts of things, of course, and the potential for LivelyGig and what we need to focus on first building. And so very exciting, Navneet, that you're helping us out, and excited about, of course, our vision as a whole, and our UI design as it's emerging. Okay, so what would we like to talk about now? I could go back to the Slack channel and talk about other parts of our architecture just to introduce them. But anyone else, Ian, Christian, anything in particular you'd like to talk about now?
Not in the moment.
Okay.
It's really on you guys, yeah.
Well, one thing I think I'd like to jumpstart, and so maybe people can start getting the word out. We'd like to have a slot on these community hangouts where we have kind of a featured gig and a featured gigster. So we give each one 3 minutes to kind of state their case, and so let's say someone in the Bitcoin community is looking to pick up some contract work, then which is very common in the Bitcoin community. So maybe they'll come on and say what their experience is, that sort of thing. And it also turns out that good dev, the Bitcoin community is that good dev with experience both in the Bitcoin stack and also distributed systems in general and cryptography are hard to find, and so they're kind of at a premium, and that's something that so a company like Blockstream or I don't know, take your pick of one of the 24 recent blockchain startups. They might come on and say what kind of dev they're looking for, or if they have a need for community organizer, they might talk about that. But essentially, I think Ed and I both agree that a lot of what happens when you find meaningful work is that you connect with people on a deeper level, and so jump-starting that community through the Hangouts seems to be a natural thing to do. Ed, did you want to say any more about that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. So this notion of featured gig and featured gigster, featured client, is a great way to provide an opportunity to showcase kind of what you're doing, but also to help us shape what we need to build and what we need to build first. So yeah, we've extended some invitations out on some Reddit job boards, specific individuals, and we intend to bring on those featured gigs, featured gigsters, featured clients in the coming weeks. So that's great. Hey, a couple of other people have joined us, so wanted to provide introductions. You have to come off mute to say hi, but so.
Hey, everyone.
Hi, this is Dor Comforti of Scenario CEO, and David Eden, or we call Reza also, is joined us. So please say a little bit about yourselves and introduce. Reza, you want to go first?
Hi.
The door?
Hello. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, you're a little quiet, Reza.
Okay. Can you hear me okay now?
You're quiet, but keep going.
Okay. Yes. Sorry, I was watching you guys on YouTube. I realized that I had to call the actually the video call. But anyway, I'm really excited to be joining the LivelyGig group as a user experience designer. Um, Basically, Ed and I have worked together for roughly 8 years, and as Greg mentioned a few minutes ago, what is really important is to find meaningful work. And what LivelyGig does is actually very meaningful work. Ed and I have talked about not only the market potential that LivelyGig offers, but also
I can barely make out anything you're saying. Can you try to speak closer to the microphone, maybe?
yes. I guess I'm still having microphone issues. Why don't you just go ahead and I'll try a different microphone. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, thank you, Reza. Just to kind of recap some of that because we had trouble hearing. But yeah, so Reza and I have been worked together in the past. We're like I mentioned a moment ago before Reza joined, Navneet and I, and previously Greg and other conversations we've been talking a lot about user interface and user experience, and we want to certainly make this a great user experience, you know, for the freelancers, for clients, project managers, and other users. Dor, you want to say hi?
Do you have any new user interface mockups to show, or is everything still under?
They're still pretty early, so I'd like to hold off one more week. We haven't finished talking about some of them internally. So far they are somewhat conventional in their look compared to other freelance sites. So that they're not necessarily as innovative as we might want them to be over time, but we're just capturing sort of the intent of the subject at first, and so, but we're building these as sort of as functional as we can, so that we can have a click-through demo, and we're focusing on especially a end-to-end scenario that will not only convey sort of a valuable use case, but also help drive development. So if you don't mind standing by until next week, hopefully we'll have a lot more to show there.
All right, keep waiting.
My voice any better? No?
Dor, we mentioned earlier how excited LivelyGig is to be working along with Scenario Team at building out the social network and
awesome.
And professional network in the case of LivelyGig to leverage you know, your success and this shared technology that we have.
Oh yeah, you know, I really wanted to come on the Hangout and tell you guys that LivelyGig is essentially the example that we showcase first whenever we speak with investors. Right? I mean, we talk about the basic drive we have for building the network, the distributed network, and we talk about the social network driven by the attention economy that we have. And then we talk about the capabilities of the technology as a platform, and I mean, sometimes I even just show your site, right, and show that there are actual projects that are starting to be constructed on top of this technology, on top of this platform. And some of the investors that we've been talking with have been excited about the potential, you know, for these distributed types of transactions and about creating a job market in this manner. So yeah, I'm glad that we have this partnership going on, and I wish you the best of luck going forward and starting this new tradition of community hangouts.
Well, thank you so much, Dor, and likewise, when I talk about LivelyGig, I talk about Scenario, because you know, to just build another freelance marketplace is not enough really to make this exciting. The social and professional network that's part of it, and the decentralization and payments in Bitcoin and other uses of the blockchain are all what make this exciting together. So We really are in this together, and we'll do everything we can to help make Scenario successful, and it, and the technology underneath it.
So I have one question for you. Is it time for participant questions yet?
Sure. Please go
So
ahead.
one thing we talked about way back is your plans to connect to existing job markets. And I was wondering if this is still the case, because when I speak with investors right now, they have this suspicion that these types of technologies and any application built on top of them will be, at least initially, only used by crypto anarchists. Not necessarily the worst market to go to, but also not what you may want to showcase when you create a market like that. So I'm wondering where this is standing, if you're still planning on interfacing with the existing markets, or what's the plan in that regard?
So yeah, Dor's referring to, in our white paper, we will expose an API, and we spelled out sort of the option of having integrations so that existing freelance marketplaces or even new freelance marketplaces could use our API, create gig contracts and so forth with a completely different user experience and leveraging sort of their base of clients and freelancers. So I think that capability will all be in place, and it remains to be seen how aggressively we'll pursue that. From an investor's perspective in LivelyGig Inc., the feedback I've gotten is that competing on the existing players' terms and trying to sort of either add value to them or to take over their turf is not a winning plan, according to the feedback I've gotten. But rather to define sort of our own hill, our own target market and segment, and win them with our own solution. So that being said, I think one of our biggest challenges, both for Scenario and for LivelyGig, is getting adoption and building the community. So if we can build that faster by, for example, creating feeds or streams from existing freelance boards, assuming that that's within their terms of service to allow and so forth. We certainly will. We'll bring in freelancers and clients and invitations to those that are in freelance and professional networks. But how closely we'll partner with existing players is unclear.
So what you mentioned that you want to...
I just wanted to point out very quickly, I'm sitting here in Montreal at the Bitcoin Scaling Conference, and some of the other parties that are here include representatives from the New York Stock Exchange, Fidelity Investments, a wide variety of remarkably mainstream concerns, and they're all looking to hire. I have cards here from a bunch of them. They're all looking to hire. And so I think that if investors are feeling like blockchain and decentralized technologies are attracting only crypto anarchists, then they're sorely behind the curve.
Don't accept the blood money. Don't accept the blood money. Let the pigs burn.
Well, we have a few crypto anarchists.
Very good.
So Ed, you mentioned that you want to find like your own niche market or niche community. Do you already have something in mind?
Well, yeah, we've talked a bit about this, Greg and I in particular, and it might very well be the same type of communities that Scenario wants to track. We're looking for freelancers and clients that are already working on a global scale, that are working gigs, but don't have the satisfactory kind of solution in place. So creative talent in particular is one interesting niche market. because especially performing artists, musicians are going all around the world. Their venues or they themselves are hiring freelancers to do musical gigs, for example, or in some cases theatrical gigs. And so this is quite an interest, and there's a lot of extras in Hollywood or movie production. There's a lot of extras and talent that's managed and brought in from all over the world, and so the payment rails is interesting, the contracts is interesting, and so that's definitely worth exploring. The second intuition that I've had is with software developers in particular, because software developers are likely to get Bitcoin very quickly and not be sort of scared off by the technology hurdle around Bitcoin and the conceptual understanding of it. So those are two potential target markets for LivelyGig.
That sounds like a good idea. I mean, especially the second crowd will probably also be able to adopt some of the more advanced capabilities that you're planning to introduce, right? I'm talking about smart contracts and transactions that are a bit more complex than just finding a freelancer and paying him directly.
Yeah, yeah. But we certainly want to have this discussion fairly publicly in these Hangouts, so if anyone is either on now or watching this on YouTube, please join our future Hangouts and let's talk about these opportunities, because I think there's many opportunities. We need to focus on one or possibly two so that we can really win that community over. And get adoption on LivelyGig and get the buzz going once we launch. Hey, I wanted to take an opportunity and also introduce or allow Maltius John to introduce himself. How's your name pronounced, Maltius? Okay, maybe later. Are you hearing us? Okay, so maybe not convenient for him to talk. Any other thoughts on what Dor and I were speaking about for mothers? Okay. Any other thoughts about what communities would be really well served with LivelyGig and Scenario that may not have a good platform to? Okay.
Is my voice clear now, Ed, or you can't hear me?
Yeah, that's better, Reza. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. It's funny, I got this new webcam, so the microphone works really well, but the video doesn't. But in any case, I'm hoping that as far as communities, there is a lot of technology workers that are doing freelance work on the side. That's my experience. For example, I've been doing web design on the side for a long time. I know a lot of graphic designers who do gigs on the side. I think they would be really easy to steal from other platforms because they often can't find what they're looking for on other platforms. But that would be a really good user base. But also I'm thinking there are a lot of people who use Craigslist. Craigslist has a very large worldwide acceptance, but the search system is very robust, and we have talked about it in detail. But it doesn't have the tools that we offer. So if you can make it as easy as Craigslist, but give better tools on top of it, provide better tools on top of it, I think we can steal a lot of user base from Craigslist. So those are the two I would like to go after initially: the tech workers and Craigslist.
So David, when you talk about additional tools, can you say a little bit more about that?
Absolutely. So, for example, if you go to Craigslist, you and I had a really good discussion when we first talked about the scenario UI. Yeah, I talked about the map. Like you have a map, let's say if you want to look for landscaping, right, business or something similar. you could see who provides those services within 30 miles. So if you want to hire a landscaper, you can see that on a map. On Craigslist right now, it's very difficult. It's guesswork. Like where some businesses are located within from where you are. As far as so those are like local businesses and whatnot. You could really steal from them. And as far as tech workers, the problem is that they don't have a system where they suggest matching to tech workers, so they don't send them like updates as far as how many new jobs have been posted since they last logged in, and also they don't have the keyword search per particular skill set. Like if you have a graphic designer who also specializes in doing videos and banners, for example, or you have graphic artists who are specializing in web design. Craigslist is very difficult to find your skill set. So those are the things that we could really do by doing a more thorough analysis to make sure that people can actually find what they want, number one, and number two, to interact with the system, which Craigslist doesn't. It really doesn't interact with you at all. So I hope that answers your question to some extent.
Yeah, no, that's great. I really appreciate that. And if anyone else has any ideas about things that they'd like to see in a user experience when it comes to landing a job or finding people to work for them, we're all ears, right? I mean, our aim here is to serve, and so if you've got something that you think really would make a difference and make it much easier, or somehow support this activity of getting work and committing to work, and also offering work, that I think we really want to hear about it. I think this has to be a community effort. It's just too large, even for a mid-sized team. We're talking about a really big surface area, and so we want to make sure that everyone feels involved, that everyone feels like a stakeholder.
Yeah. And if I could add to what Greg just mentioned as far as the surface area, Ed and I had a discussion about the scroll process and people getting paid. As somebody who has done freelancing and has worked with freelancers, we often don't get paid. So I think our system can really alleviate that problem and attract people to it, knowing that there is a scroll process, then knowing that you won't get screwed over the work that you provide, over the labor that you provide. But I'm not kidding myself, or I'm not trying to kid anybody else. I think that's going to be a Herculean effort on its own, just to create that scroll process and all the legal things that we have to do to make sure that something goes into a scroll and people will get paid for the labor that they provide. So.
Yeah, we definitely have a lot of work in front of us. We need the community feedback, and so invite you all to help us focus on what's going to be most valuable first. There's the concept of a minimum viable product that's usable and that you'll develop, create value for yourself and your connections from. And just to extend on what Greg was mentioning about the community process, and that we have a lot to build here. Want to make sure that we talk a little bit before we end up. We just have a few more minutes about the other parts of the architecture, so that developers who may be seeing this can also feel welcome to participate in what we're building. So we talked about a bit about the back-end architecture. Can everyone see my screen now?
Yep.
Okay, great. So our application server will use Spray, which is provides the web API and RESTful layer. That's also the technology that Scenario is using. In terms of our front-end architecture, we've selected Bootstrap as the technology for a set of UI widgets and frameworks and sort of navigation of look and feel, and so we were starting to build out the UI in that. It's simple at first, and that's connecting in a reactive metaphor with React.js and Scala.js, and so this is quite a different technology than some sites are built on that are sort of more loosely typed and have a ton of JavaScript code on them. It's as I mentioned earlier in the broadcast, Greg and I feel very strongly about a correct by construction approach, and so this Scala.js is essentially typed JavaScript that is built and compiled from the Scala code, if I'm characterizing that correctly. And so we're looking for developers both on the front end part using these technologies here, as well as a great Scala developer to help with the protocols on the back end. And so those are our largest needs from the development community. But if anyone on this broadcast or later wants to help us and build any aspect of this project, whether it be technology or marketing or otherwise, please get in touch with us. We'd love to hear from you. Greg, anything additional to say about the technology or otherwise?
Sorry, yeah, I was muted. Yeah, no, I think you characterized it quite well. I do want to say it's been a delight working with Grant. Grant hasn't spoken up much. I wish he'd spoken more. He's done a great job of setting up and making sure that the build process is beginning to come together and work smoothly. He's also done a really nice job of sorting through a ton of technologies and making sure that they actually fit together. So a lot of what Ed just talked about is working because Grant is putting in the time. So yeah, Grant, if you wanted to say anything else, that would be awesome.
I think Ed covered most of it, but I'd just like to say this morning I actually pushed to the GitHub repo. I think I need to actually experiment with it, but I think React and Bootstrap should be working now if you actually try and access them. So I need to develop some kind of sample application to confirm that, but should be working.
Yeah, no, that's great. I also wanted to mention there are a ton of resources. So if there are developers out there who are interested in working with us and working with, like I just pasted into the chat, the scalajs.org. There are a ton of resources, so you can see that Scala.js, even though you get all the advantages of being able to write for the browser in Scala, it does compile to JavaScript, and as a result, you can use all of the major libraries from React to jQuery, and that gives you a gigantic acceleration. Right? You don't have to reinvent the world because you enjoy all the benefits of a strongly typed functional language. You can still use your favorite JavaScript libraries in that setting. So we have tons and tons of resources. We have similar resources on the back end as well.
I want to say something real quick because I know you guys are wrapping it up and are really trying to send out a message to find developers. I would definitely encourage both LivelyGig and Scenario to keep posting on Reddit and either the technology or some subreddit like that, because that's how I originally found Scenario. So and I think the community on Reddit for the most part is probably better than 4chan or something like that. So like every week I would say just post up on Reddit, an article from your blog or whatever, just to keep the call to action fresh on that forum.
Can you tell us exactly which subreddits? Maybe post on Stack. Which ones do you think would be most interesting?
Well, I would say the biggest one is the technology, just technology. Reddit/technology, that would be really good. And then out of there, maybe just do some searching around on popular subreddits outside of technology. But I think, you know, it was in March or something, someone just posted like scenario is going to be a game changer. I was like, what scenario? And then, you know, so as long as you keep presenting scenario and LivelyGig as game changers, people are going to be naturally drawn to it. And you definitely do want a specific demographic of people. You know, you don't want to just blast your messages on Facebook, or, you know, it's definitely going to have to be Reddit or something like Reddit.
Okay, thanks. That's a good idea.
That's great. Yeah, that's great feedback. I also want to mention that I just had a couple of folks from Eris Technologies pop by. We were the Eris guys and Vlad Zamfir from Ethereum and I were all sharing an Airbnb here, and so they're headed off to the airport. And I just heard great news that it looks like they're going to give serious consideration to formalizing Tendermint, which is another proof of stake protocol using the Pi calculus. So woohoo! More engagement with this particular methodology on core cryptocurrency issues, which I think is really important.
That's so awesome.
Yeah.
So hey, we need to wrap up because we're at the hour. Want to respect people's times, so this has been a great first hangout. So if you any other comments, please post them on our community channel or send me an email at ed@livelygig.com, and we look forward to talking to you next week.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, later on.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
No, thank you.